All in Sports Network. We love sports.
It is Tuesday, May 27th, right here on your daily fix for all things Texas Longhorns. I'm Tanner Carlson. That is Jake Jimerson, and this is All In Horns, presented to you by Rogue Sports Network. We obviously did not release an episode yesterday. It was Memorial Day. We took a little bit of time off, and so we will get you back into the swing of things as the week continues on to the Women's College World Series. Baseball is now getting into regionals, and not only swinging are the Texas Longhorns as they advance to their 8th Women's College World Series in program history, their 3rd in the last 4 years. It was an exciting series against Clemson. I couldn't even say that Texas probably played their best, but still come away with the super regional win and advance to the College World Series. We will talk about that. We'll talk a little bit about the projections. Obviously, by now, since this time of recording, the baseball regionals have been officially released. But with this recording, we have not yet have determined that yet. Will also know who Texas will be playing. We didn't want to wait. We've got, company over, friends, family over for Memorial Day weekend. And so we also don't necessarily know. We don't know the final to the Georgia-Florida game, who Texas will end up playing against in the first round of the College World Series. So, Jake, happy Memorial Day weekend. Any big plans for the 3-day weekend? I know you've got some company over, and so we're going to try to hurry up and wrap this up. So you can enjoy the time off. But anyway, a good weekend for Texas in terms of softball advancing to the College World Series. So some good news. Jake and I just finished up watching the Stars game. We're going to try not to get into that.
Yeah, no, that would make this podcast go 45 minutes. So it would be like our post game of the first Georgia Texas game, but worse.
Yeah.
So yeah, not going to get into that, but I'm just happy to have a day off, getting ready to come down to Texas as well this upcoming weekend for
we have a golf trip coming up.
Yeah, golf trip coming up. So looking forward to that. And divulging and barbecuing some Vegas dogs tomorrow.
Okay.
Which is
explain to these people.
So I got them from this local meat market I really like here, and they're these big old jumbo beef hot dogs that have cubes of cheddar cheese stuffed into the dog, and then that's not enough, so you got to wrap it in bacon. And I figured for Memorial Day, that's about the most American thing you can make. So I went ahead and got a handful of those to make for me and my wife and the company that's over this weekend. So I'll be throwing those on the grill tomorrow, and that should be a fun little experiment.
Yeah, no, that'll be a good time. And also shout out to remembering all of the fallen soldiers on this Memorial Day weekend. Big Patriots here. And so, make sure that you take the time to remember those who have served and sacrificed so much. All right, Jake, let's go ahead, get into softball. A good series, a fun series, kind of a scary series. I don't think after finishing this series, I don't know if you're as a softball fan necessarily feeling like, hey, we're one of the top dogs going to the College World Series, but you did get the win. When you needed it the most. You had to get back-to-back wins after dropping game one. You and I talked about that briefly. But yeah, going into, Saturday or Friday and Saturday, having to win 2 straight, Texas gets the job done. It takes extra innings in game 2, 10 innings to get the 7-5 win. And then in game 3, a 6-5 win. Now it was 6-3 going into the 7th. Texas felt like they were, maybe not comfortably in the lead, but had a solid lead, a little bit of a cushion, and they used every bit of that cushion after Clemson scores 2 runs with 2 outs remaining in the ball game, and then finally closes it out to get the final out and winning that game 6-5. Jake, your thoughts on the series and what it could mean for this team moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, it technically fell below expectations for both of us. I think we both predicted a sweep for Texas. And I think what's frustrating is just they didn't play that. I mean, for a team that's going into the Women's College World Series, they did dominate the regional, played really well in that. They did not play that well in that super regional.
Clemson, a
Oh,
feisty team.
yeah, but also just a lot of self-enforced errors and mistakes that just weren't needed and kind of kept Clemson in it, or helped Clemson win the game they won and gave them a shot in both of the games that Texas did end up winning. So I mean, the bats were better, so that is, if anything, I feel a little bit better about their bats going into it, but now I feel a little bit worse about the defense and the pitching, because that's kind of fallen to the wayward here at the end of the season. As the bats have started to heat up, the defense and the pitching has started to fall off a little bit.
Yeah,
And
the pitching staff in that game 3, specifically talking game 3, Mac Morgan gets the win, but it was a dual effort with Tegan Cavan, and only allowed 5 hits in that game 3, but Clemson capitalizing and getting all 5 of their runs off of those 5 hits. Now, those weren't homers or anything like that, but a lot of double base hit, a lot of extra bases, Jake, and errors. 2 errors for Texas that
felt
uh,
like more.
it felt like more. Well, I unearned runs were something that Clemson got as well. Texas got just as many unearned runs and errors as Clemson. So, I mean, honestly, if Clemson doesn't have those mistakes, Jake, we could be talking about Texas's end of the season because, if this could have been the last time we watched this softball team play on Saturday night because of Clemson's mistakes that kind of, balanced out Texas's mistakes. And if it wasn't for those, it could have been season over for the Longhorns.
But to rewind back to your preview where you had pulled the stats, that was the area we expected Texas to have a big advantage.
Yeah.
The fielding numbers for Clemson are in the bottom of the country, whereas Texas is around top 25 in the country. For that to be even, to me, makes it almost surprising Texas won this series when you consider the rest of the numbers were pretty even. That was by far the biggest advantage for Texas, and they actually faltered in that. And if they field and defend and pitch the way they did against Clemson in the Women's College World Series, it's going to be a very quick trip to Oklahoma City.
Yeah.
Regardless of how the bats are doing.
And obviously at time of recording, we don't know the results of the Florida Georgia game. I'm going to go out on a limb and say Florida wins that game and that wins that series. But again, I don't know. But if you play that way against this Florida Gators team, you'll be booted maybe in 2 games.
Yeah, I mean, play Florida, lose to them, and then go down to the losers bracket and see who you play next. And but if you play like that, it's not going to matter who you play next, and especially if you run into Oklahoma at some point, who now looks like the well-oiled machine that is Oklahoma softball from the last 4 years. Looks like they're on their way for a 5th straight softball national title because they demolished Alabama, who beat them in the regular season, by the way.
9th straight College World Series appearance for the Oklahoma Sooners.
Yeah, and I will already tell you my prediction is that Oklahoma's probably going to win their 5th straight. I mean,
they very much feel like the UConn going into the tournament on the women's basketball side of things.
Yeah. I mean, they lost to Alabama in the regular season, if I recall right, in that series. They just run-rolled them in game 2 to finish the sweep of them to go to the Women's College World Series. So they've leveled up, whereas Texas has felt like they've leveled down somewhat consistently throughout the season. And I say this about a team who's going to the Women's College World Series, albeit. But again, with where expectations were for a team that started the year preseason number 1, just doesn't feel like the team I think a lot of us expected to see.
No, I agree, Jake. But now you did say that the bats did start getting a little hotter, and they did. Again, partially due to poor fielding from Clemson, but also they were still making solid contact and keeping the pitchers from dominating and controlling the game for the Clemson Tigers. But Ashton Maloney, the leadoff batter for Texas, along with Mia Scott, the superstar at batting in the 3rd position, both recorded 2 hits, both got 1 run scored. Maloney added an RBI. Who Maloney leads the I believe Maloney leads the country in RBIs, unless that might be further down the batting order. I'm not entirely sure, but anyway, bottom of the batting order, Jake didn't really contribute much of anything. After the top 5 batters, it was a huge drop off from there. for the ladies. And so I'm curious your thoughts on really being reliant on the top portion of the batting order for these bats and these runs to be scored. If it seems like if it's not early in the game where Texas jumps out to a 1-0, early run lead in the first couple of innings, this team it feels like they struggle a little bit more, because then by the time the top of the order gets back up there, it feels like it's fourth, fifth inning.
Yeah, because all of a sudden you have a bunch of really quick innings where you're just 1, 2, 3 out. And it's not really adding to the pitch count of the opposing pitcher. It's not really making them earn it. And you have to be a complete team to win a Women's College World Series and to even compete in it to win one. Which Texas has been in the past. They've gotten, they finished second, and was it like 2 out of the last 3 years? This team just doesn't feel to that level, which is surprising again when you consider that this was really supposed to be the best team yet. And unless that bottom half of the lineup can their bats individually heat up, it's hard to feel very confident that this team is going to go that far. And I think just making a Women's College World Series at this point isn't really all that satisfying. You should be playing to get to the national championship, ideally finally winning one, getting over that final hump you haven't been able to get over.
What it kind of feels like, Jake, is, say a Tennessee Volunteer team in basketball making the Sweet 16 in the last 5 years, but not being able to get past the Elite Eight. It's kind of like, okay, cool. We've made the College World Series 3 out of the last 4 years. That's great. It's a huge accomplishment. I'm not taking anything away from that accomplishment. However, it's starting to fall on deaf ears a little bit of, this team's competing for a national championship. This team's a title contender when you can't get past that hump. Now, obviously, we're talking as though the season's dead. It's not dead. There's still plenty of softball to be left. But if you're playing the way you played against Clemson in the College World Series, I don't think your weekend's going to last too much longer.
No, we're just being honest. Just like if you go back and listen to some of our episodes the week going into the Ohio State game, coming out of the Arizona State game, we kind of had the same kind of tone of like, they play like that again, it's going to be ugly.
Yeah.
It's going to be like Ohio State, Oregon was. And, we're not the homers that are just gonna be like, well, it's Texas, so they're going to win it all. We're going to call it as we see it. And that's why we sound a little bit negative about it. It's just because I think we expected them to handle Clemson easier than they did. And they were borderline lucky to even come out winning that series. And that was at home. And now you're going to go to Oklahoma City, which is basically a home game for OU, by the way, and have to play some of the best teams that are playing better softball than you right now. It's hard to feel confident in their chances.
Let's take a look at some of the other super regionals going on. UCLA was up at the beginning of this recording. They were up like 5-0 in the top of the 7th. All they needed to do was close out that final inning. So assuming we'll have Oregon versus UCLA in one of those first matchups, Oklahoma versus Tennessee. That actually should be a very good matchup. Texas versus the winner of Florida and Georgia, and then Texas Tech with a big upset over Florida State. They'll take on the winner of Arkansas and Ole Miss. So a lot of SEC teams, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the remaining 8 teams in the College World Series will be coming out of the SEC. But yeah, I think that Oklahoma-Tennessee series could shape up to be pretty good. Maybe Tennessee puts a little bit of pressure on them, Jake. But right now, Oklahoma's a freight train.
Yeah. And, what's interesting in the Women's College World Series is going away from the series, going to the best of ones and having that kind of losers bracket. And your trip can just end so quick where you play in the one game. If you're in the losers bracket, you play really quick. Winning that first game is so pivotal in the Women's College World Series, because when you win your first game or two, it gives you so much more time off than the other teams. Because when you drop to that losers bracket, you play almost instantly.
Yeah.
And so that's, and it's the same thing on the baseball side. That was kind of a knock on David Pierce, as much as he was making the World Series, they always seem to lose that first game. And that just puts you at such a disadvantage when you're having to bring more pitching out early. Other teams that are winning early get to rest. And it makes it really hard to make a deep run. So that first game for Texas is going to be key. Like you said, I would think Florida is going to beat Georgia. I hope Georgia beats Florida because I mean, Florida's a better team. And Florida be looking for revenge over that early series. I think it was the first SEC series.
Yep.
And
where Texas won 2-1.
yeah, and that was when Texas was kind of playing at their peak. And so it'll be, that game is delayed right now, by the way. I just checked. It's 1-0 Florida. UCLA did hold on to win 5-0 against South Carolina. So but yeah, that first game will be the key. If Texas can win that game, it just gives you such a better chance of making a deep run. Whereas if you lose that first game, your run isn't necessarily dead. I mean, teams have won it all after losing a first game, but the percentage wise chance just drops dramatically.
Yeah, we do have on the baseball side of things, Jake. We do have some conference champions of their tournaments already handed out. North Carolina won theirs. Vanderbilt beats Ole Miss 3-2 in the SEC championship. Texas regional, these are projections. Obviously, we're recording early because of Memorial Day weekend. We're trying to have the day off, and so we have not gotten final brackets solidified, but this is what the projection looks like. Texas in their regional will have UTSA, Arizona State, and Houston Baptist. Texas actually played two of those three teams in their regular season, lost to UTSA in the regular season, 7-8 and like 12. I think it went 12 innings. Arizona State obviously haven't played, but Houston Baptist, they won in the regular season 12-2 and 7. It was one of the few Tuesday night games where Texas actually came out to play and dominated like they were supposed to. Again, those are projections. They might look a little bit differently by the time this is actually being recorded. But if that does hold true, Jake, I think UTSA is obviously the biggest threat, having already beaten Texas once, to maybe have an upset in this region and come out of it.
Yeah, but that said, I'd feel pretty good about Texas's chances in that, just when you consider kind of how that Tuesday game played out. I think Texas would feel like, okay, we can set the schedule straight. We can set the record straight as far as who the better team is in that. And you have to feel confident about Texas going into that, especially things just clean up. I mean, I thought the game against Tennessee, they played mostly fine. It was just the strikeouts and some of the errors, but you clean some of that stuff up. Also, it's a lot easier when you're not going against some of the pitching that's in the SEC.
Correct.
The other thing that'll be interesting to look at once all these regionals are done is seeing who Texas would be playing against in a potential super regional. Last I checked, prediction I saw was ironically the team that I've said that I kind of root for away from Texas, Coastal Carolina, and I really hope that wouldn't come back to bite me in the ass.
Yeah, it would be really fun to see, though.
No, it would be, but at the same time, I feel like that clip could resurface of me saying that if that were to happen, and if a Coastal Carolina were to pull off an upset. So I clinched up a little bit when I saw that.
Yeah, and this projection that I'm reading off to everybody is with Vanderbilt already being announced as the SEC tournament champions. They would be the number 2 overall seed in the regionals. Vanderbilt would have Kansas State, Louisville, and Fairfield. Arkansas would be the number 3. So your top 3 1 seeds in the regionals would all be coming out of the SEC. North Carolina would be the 4, LSU the 5, Georgia the 6, Auburn the 7. And then there's your Coastal Carolina, the 8, right there, Jake. And yeah, that would line up to where Texas would be playing them in the super regionals. Georgia Tech would be, or let me back up a little bit. Sorry. Oregon State would be the 9. Ole Miss would be the 10. Ole Miss getting to the SEC championship probably saved them maybe hosting a regional. So that would be huge for Ole Miss, them making it to the championship, even though they came in a loss. Then you've got Clemson there, Florida State, Oregon, Tennessee, Southern Miss, and Georgia Tech. So those are your host sites for the regionals. Again, those are all projected right now. subject to change. But they are as updated as to the minute as they possibly can, thanks to D1 baseball. Appreciate everything that they do.
Yeah, and typically probably the most reliable one of all the baseball. Again, so weird. There's so many different.
And they would have A&M out, FYI.
A&M's out. They're not in. But
in case anybody was curious,
it will be fun to kind of see how everything ends up lining up. It does feel like Texas will more than likely have that one, but we'll see. They could drop to 2 or 3 if people decide to have a little bit of that recency bias of, how Texas ended the season. Even winning that series against OU, their record down those last 10 or so games was not very good.
And maybe it's recency bias, Jake, but I'll be honest with you. It'd be hard right now to pick against Vanderbilt. They're one of the best teams that are playing the best in the country right now, of anybody.
Yeah, I'm not saying I would I don't think recency bias is always a bad thing. Sometimes it should play into seeding a little bit. And so I wouldn't really have a problem if Texas fell to 2 or fell to 3. I don't think there would necessarily be anything wrong with that. I think Vanderbilt has a strong case for that first seed. And I think if Texas would have just at least won one game in that SEC tournament, that probably would have locked it in. But losing that game definitely hurt their chances. And but that said, no matter what, they're going to be hosting a regional. They're going to be hosting a super regional if they get there. And so a road to a College World Series will run through Austin. And that's all you can ask for at the end of the day. And Texas will have that at the very least.
No, for sure. All right, Jake. Well, if you have anything else to add, now's the time to do it. If not, we'll go ahead and sign it off.
Just hook them, and hopefully softball makes my pessimism look stupid. I would love for that to happen.
No, yeah, definitely would love to look stupid on here. We typically do, but especially when it comes to us being negative about Texas and then them proving us wrong, it's always a good feeling. So, Jake, we are going to have. We promised the people last week that we would release our top 10 quarterbacks going into next year, and a little bit of an homage to Greg McElroy and Joel Klatt's viral top 10. And so we're going to come out with a top 10 college quarterback list probably for tomorrow's episode, I would think, because coming out Thursday, we'll start really diving into softball, baseball. And so with that being said, we'll probably have our list coming out for you tomorrow. And then we'll also talk a little bit more in detail about the restructuring of the college football playoffs. And I know we briefly spoke on it in Friday's episode last week, but I wanted to give it a little bit more time and attention that it deserves for this week as well, because it is big news for anybody who is interested in college football playoffs, which I think everybody who is a Texas Longhorn fan should be. So for Jacob Jimerson, I'm Tanner Carlson. Again, remember all the soldiers and all the veterans who gave their life serving our country this Memorial Day weekend that has already passed, but shout out to them. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, hook 'em.
All in Sports Network. We love sports.